Welcome in, everyone. I'm Sharon Rose.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. Happy opening day again for the Red Sox, everybody.
Right.
Mike Slifer hanging out for Todd. Red Sox rained out yesterday, but they will play today. Hello, Michael.
Ryan made a good point that, by yesterday afternoon, it was nice in Boston. Some sun poking through, almost 50 degrees. Probably warmer yesterday afternoon than it will be today. Just want to point that out. Things are starting to lighten up, especially in eastern Maine. We're looking live right now in Bar Harbor. A little bit more light coming through, but still a lot of cloud cover. And I think we keep the clouds around for the next few hours. But big improvements are made there as we get later into the day. Current wind chills back down into the single digits. It feels like it's 1 in Greenville right now. It feels like it's 3 in Rangeley. Bangor feels like 14 degrees. Holton the same. And then some spots along the coastline feel more like 20 degrees. But we've got these winds coming out of the northwest, and they are a bit gusty. So that makes it feel a bit colder out than it actually is. And this cold air spreads pretty far to the south. Freeze warnings in effect for parts of the Midwest and the Ohio River Valley. Even down to like Charlotte, North Carolina, it's only 33 degrees. Not much cooler than where we are, but of course, some spots to our south and west are not dealing with the wind like we are, so it'll actually feel more true to the temperature. Some light upslope snow showers continue, and with these flurries falling, we won't really see much out of that. More breaks in the clouds across parts of central and western Maine through the Oxford foothills, and that's just going to keep spreading to the east and allow more sunshine over the next few hours. I do expect more sun this afternoon. High temperatures in the mid to upper 30s and low 40s along the coastline. Same idea inland, and maybe a little bit more sunshine, especially inland, depending on where those clouds set up later on today. This is the chilliest day out of the next few. We'll talk about the weekend and what to expect for the holiday coming up.
All right, thank you, Mike. And here's your morning rush in 90 seconds or less. The truck driver accused of killing 7 motorcyclists in New Hampshire back in 2019 will be in court today. An arraignment hearing is scheduled for Vladimir Zhukovsky. He faces 7 counts each of manslaughter, negligent homicide, and negligent homicide while driving under the influence, and 1 count of reckless conduct. His trial is set to begin on December 1st, but Zhukovsky's lawyer has filed a motion to reschedule. The Maine Supreme Court has upheld the conviction and 48-year prison sentence of Sharon Kennedy in the murder of her 10-year-old daughter, Marissa. During Kennedy's appeal, her lawyers argued she should be considered a victim of domestic violence by Julio Carrillo, who was her husband at the time. Marissa was found dead in her family's condo in Stockton Springs in 2018. According to the state medical examiner, her heart had given out after months of abuse. The man who was shot by a Somerset County Sheriff's deputy last week is out of the hospital and in jail now. Trevor Cowett of Skowhegan has been charged with 2 counts of criminal threatening with a dangerous weapon. He was shot by Deputy Michael Lyman in Norridgewock. Lyman has been placed on leave during the investigation, which is standard procedure. And you can read more about this story in this morning's Portland Press Herald. And there's some new information about that mass shooting in California we first told you about yesterday morning. Police say they have identified the suspect now, Aminadab Gaxiola Gonzalez. They say Gonzalez had either a personal or business relationship with all of the victims. 4 people were killed in that shooting, including a 9-year-old boy. And that's your morning rush in 90 seconds or less. And if you want more on these stories, you can check out our website or mobile app.
More witnesses, more testimony today in the trial of Derek Chauvin, and now it seems like we have a little bit more of a clear picture of George Floyd's opioid use. Floyd's former girlfriend testifying yesterday, saying they both struggled with addiction. Courtney Ross told the jury it all started because of some chronic pain. Ross also said she believes Floyd started using again maybe 2 weeks before his death. We also heard from a recently retired police supervisor who was on duty and arrived at the scene after Floyd's death. Derek Smith said he thinks Derek Chauvin violated police's use of force policies.
When Mr. Floyd was no longer offering up any resistance to the officers, they could have ended their restraint.
And that was after he was handcuffed and on the ground and no longer resisting?
Correct.
The Minneapolis police chief is expected to take the stand today. You can follow along with the trial on our website or our mobile app.
President Biden is expected to speak today on last month's jobs report. New data shows the number of first-time claims increased last week to more than 700,000. But the president says his infrastructure plan will create millions of new jobs. Republicans aren't so sure. They say it's too expensive and won't support it as it is. They say they won't support it as it is. The $2 trillion package includes upgrades to things like roads, broadband internet, the power grid, and senior care. Now, the plan is very early in the stages of planning. It could have some impacts here in Maine, of course. News Center Maine's Sean Stackhouse joins us now with a closer look at that.
Sharon, good morning. Well, if approved, this plan could bring more than $620 billion nationwide to improvements on things like roads, bridges, and our nation's rail system. And that is welcome news to transportation leaders here in Maine. Maine DOT Commissioner Bruce Van Note writing in a statement, "We have been relying on discretionary federal funds and state bonding to meet basic needs in recent years. Long-term, sustainable funding solutions that allow us to improve, not just maintain our transportation system, are important to Maine, people, our economy, and our future success." The plan also calls for investing $80 billion to improve railway infrastructure. That's something that could help multiple long-term projects here on the Amtrak Downeaster.
A large majority of the corridor is single track. So it's kind of like a long one-way street. And so the more freight and passenger traffic that you have, there aren't places for the trains to pass each other. So I think that that's definitely, an opportunity to add some capacity.
Now, some of the priorities discussed for the Amtrak Downeaster that may become possible with this funding are things like relocating the Portland Transportation Center, adding an additional rail line to make sharing a line between passenger and freight easier, and possibly expanding the line to create a new station in Rockland. But before any of that happens, this proposed plan will need to go through Congress. Coming up in the next half hour, hear from members of Maine's congressional delegation on their initial thoughts on the plan. Live in Portland this morning, Sean Stackhouse, News Center, Maine.
Sean, thank you. In the meantime, there will be a new bridge between Maine and New Brunswick, Canada. The project will replace the century-old Edmundston-Madawaska Bridge. It's had a 5-ton weight limit since 2017, and because of that, truck drivers have been taking some significant detours. According to the Maine Department of Transportation, the total of the project should cost about $97.5 million. The state awarded the construction contract to Reed & Reed Incorporated out of Woolwich. Work on the bridge is set to start later this month and is expected to be finished sometime around June of 2025.
They did the right things on alerting the school community to protect other potential, victims.
A distressing situation for some high school students who caught their custodian allegedly spying on them in the bathroom. Parents are saying the charges he's facing aren't enough. We'll break it all down coming up.
It's breezy out there today. Not really enough that we're going to be talking about power outages or issues like that, but enough to make it feel cold as that colder air spills in. Current wind gusts are between about 20 to 25 miles an hour, and I expect those to continue for the remainder of at least the day. They'll relax into the evening, so it's going to feel chilly outside. Warmer weather on the way this weekend. We'll talk about that coming up.